Hmm. Oh, hello. Please, sit down. Make yourself comfortable. Uh, I believe that you're here for the story, correct? Here, let me just. Just had to blow the dust off of it, sorry. You've been a while before. Let me see if we can pick up where we left off, or have you just forgotten all out? Ah, you forgot. Well, I do not mind starting from the beginning once more. Please, let me tell you a tale of trust, of friends meeting up, friends staying apart, of friends waging war, etc., etc., blah blah blah. You already know the title card. I mean, even then you can read the YouTube thumbnail and title. I'm not gonna believe that you're absolutely and utterly stupid. I'm not that degrading. But this is a story of the history of the AVL Minecraft modded SMP. So, let's start the near beginning. Not AVL, the beginning of AVL's career, no, that would be taking up too much time. Instead, we're going to be starting at the start of the AVL SMP. A fateful day in January 2024 specifically, he made his first stream about the AVL SMP. First ever making it, and hey, look at me. Pay the fuck attention. Look at me. Pay attention. Do you understand what I'm saying? Good. Now keep paying fucking attention, you little bitch. I want you to understand that I am heat after that. Alright? Okay, good. Look, I'm too angry to keep on talking. You're just gonna stand by and you're gonna watch the first couple minutes of the server's life, alright? Specifically recorded on January 25th, 2024, around like 7 p.m. or something like that. I don't fucking know. Ask AVL if you're wanting to know the exact damn time.
Here it is.
I joined first, skill issue.
Oh my, it works! Yo, it worked!
I joined first, I'm the first, I joined first, oh my god.
Oh my, look at my stream, bro. Look at my graphics on here.
Oh
Look
no,
at my
it's
Twitch
loading.
stream.
Oh, what the fuck?
You have it. I put it on there. Go in your, press escape,
Options,
video, and then click shaders.
shaders.
I put two sets
Which
of
one?
shaders. There's complementary or solders. Solders is the one I'm using. If you have a pretty good computer, you can run it.
Alright, time to set house to the whole apartment comp.
Alright, I've calmed down a bit. So, before I go on anymore, do you need anything to eat? Do you want anything to drink, anything like that? Alright, let me get some stuff real quick. Just stay put. Don't mind the ceramic shards. That's part of my grandma's recipe. Anyway, where was I? Right. The only couple of people in the server, of course, were AVL, Dud, and Mithril. In the very beginning, at least. Of course, later on it would get far more crowded. But still, we're in the first couple of episodes of the SMP. Either way, we have only about 4 or 5 people. I believe it's episode 2 where the first person apart from the original 3, those being of course Dud, AVL, and Mithril, joined. And that would be Nick. Nick, we'll talk about him more later. He's a more important figure piece once we get further down the SMP's timeline. But again, we'll talk about him later. Beginning with the first couple days in the SMP, people were already getting geared up with iron and diamond. Of course, diamond was got from mine shafts, not mining. They're lazy as sh. Now, sorry, I was getting off track just a little bit. Anyway, let me show you the clip of what I believe are the first recorded diamonds ever mined, and of course, the first ever diamond pickaxe created on this server. Of course, I may get it wrong, but again, I'm saying recorded because no one else was either recording on or documented their diamond discovery or diamond mining or diamond pickaxe crafting or anything like that, because why would they? Either way, this is the first diamond pickaxe or diamond mine. The first one that I could find. Hey, you back from the land of the dead? Good. So, let us finally get on to episode 3, maybe 4. This is when a variety of people joined the server and really made their presence announced because, well, they were the top of the top. They were the content at the time. Mainly because they wouldn't stop making a shitload of drama with each other. These people include, but are not limited to, Suspect Omar, Sick Jackson, Snips, Jason, Scuffy, and Nick. Of course, I don't know if all of them joined around the episode 3 to 4 time. It's just a solid guess, because they were there before I was there, and I am not willing to go through over 2-3 days worth of content just to see when they had joined a little server in a block game. If you're willing to, then I will welcome you right in, and I will include it in the video in a post-edit kind of thing. I don't know. Either way, a lot of people had joined, and these people made the foundation of content used during the AVL SMP. Skipping ahead a couple of streams, AVL's faithful horse companion was ruthlessly killed by frostbite. A small trial was held, this being most likely the shortest one and the first one. Of course, soon after, a small project had began, mainly because of Dud. This project was the excavation of an entire chunk. Of course, right before that is about when I had joined. Well, I as in Fat Joe. Either way, I don't make an important appearance until later on. And you would know that if you are to watch... Hold on, real quick, just a warning. Shameless plug up ahead. And you would know that if you were in fact to watch my previous video, The History of the NJR, only available on Fat Joe Network. Anyway, let me get back into my narrator voice instead of the cringy YouTuber voice. Getting back on track. If you were to watch my NJR history video, then you would know that I got back there far later into digging of the hole. But this was in fact the birth of something bigger than just a hole to bedrock. This was the start of AVL Land, a place where people actually went to communicate with one another, to live with one another. Of course, there was drama each and every day, but that didn't matter, because people actually enjoyed being there. People wanted to be near their friends. People wanted to have trade routes set up with one another. People wanted to live to each other. People lived for each other. Of course, that changed a couple of times, but that was only slight adjustments in the status quo. These players, which one of them I will get onto later because they came later on within the AVL's SMP's lifetime. The other we actually know, that one being Nick. See, Nick over here was amounting his power. He was bloodthirsty because he wanted to show off said power. The reason why he was so powerful? He was collecting mythical weapons, which were weapons that either had incredibly high attack potential or had passive or activated effects that made them more effective during combat. Like Glenn Wolfe was collecting his marriage proposals and divorce papers. I will give a bit of foreshadowing. Nick would be the primary catalyst for an event that would change the SMP forever. For the worst, might I add. But during this time frame, a new person had joined, one specifically from Omar's friend list. Of course, this person, well, they quickly became the most hated person on the AVL SMP. This person was none other than TS Mad. The reason why everyone hated TS Mad was due to their arrogance, their generic assholey personality, and the fact that they would constantly insult others, either with backhanded compliments or just generally snide remarks. This, of course, resulted in unfavorability within the general population, because though he wanted to play, he wanted to have beef with everyone at the same time. This included with Nick, Scuffy, with anyone really, including AVL and Omar. Which is surprising considering AVL was the owner of the server, and of course Omar since he was, well, his friend. But that didn't matter. Not to TS Matt at least. He didn't care who it was or why it was. He just wanted to have beef because he could, because it was fun to him. Of course, no one else reciprocated that feeling. And during this time, which is about, I'd say, episode 15, maybe 16, a new face had joined. This one far more pleasant than TS Mad. Their name, a kid from Greece. He will become far more important later on. Just like Nick. But he was a far more pleasant face than anyone else, to be honest. Anyone new, as to say. As all the new players were siding with, well, TS Mad. He was attempting to make a faction that could rival the NJR, or Omar's own OCO, which was originally made to be an opposition of the NJR, which, of course, you would know had you watched the damn NJR video. Well, I mean, you already knew that, though, right? I mean, you're obviously smart enough that you watched that video when I asked you to, right? I'm sure you did. Anyway, a kid from Greece was originally just a normal viewer. And, well, after a while, he actually joined, just like a lot of others. But he was different. He was new, but that didn't limit him. He still made a lot of progress. Not by begging or having a different friend on the server already, but instead by strapping himself up by the bootstraps and working for it. He was different, and it was pleasant. But around this time, I'd say around episode 19, if that, it's either episode 19 or 18 of the AVL SMP, that things really took a turn for the worse. Nick had gathered the entirety of the NJR to rebel against AVL, originally making the promise of making him add more mods, which is what we wanted. We wanted more mods, we wanted more content, because there was none. A world which you can explore without any reason to explore it is a world with no exploration whatsoever. I digress. Nick had promised us more mods, more content, more everything. But in the negotiations with AVL, he had twisted it into what he wanted, not what the masses wanted. The masses wanted more content. He wanted an entire wipe of the server. Of course, I'm quite sure anyone and everyone in that protest would have swiftly stopped had we known that that's what Nick was going to make it about. Because in his eyes, there was no more challenge. There was no more purpose. He wanted a fresh slate. Others still saw challenge. They wanted more things to do, though, but they still saw challenge. But not Nick. He had changed the narrative. He had made an irreversible mistake. And I suppose that's where we will leave off this chapter, because the rest of it was unrecorded. The final bits unable to be scrounged back up. Let me get up and get the second book in this trilogy, as to say. Just gotta blow the dust off of this one as well. You've been gone for a while, as to say. There's still dust on it. Hold on. Alright. I think that'll be good enough. Now, let's see. Where is... Ah, here. The beginning of season... Oh, right. This... Sorry, I'm having bad memories about this. I can't skip it, you know, it's just part of... Well, I guess I have to tell you nonetheless. Let's move on to the beginning, of Season 2, Part 1. Yep, I know. Look, I don't want to talk about it as much as you don't want to listen about it. But I have to. It's just part of the history, and you came here for the history. Now let's continue. I will start off by, of course, reading off both the update sort of thing that AVL had posted in his Discord and the rules that had changed from it. There will be transitions, and your lovely narrator, Fatter Joe, will be, well, reading it off to you because I know that you're too lazy to do anything by yourself. I'm joking. But seriously though, I will be reading it to you because it is very long. I suppose we shall begin. Good morning, everyone. I've been working on the Minecraft server. After a discussion we had, we decided to start a Season 2 of the AVL SMP, starting tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. AVL SMP Season 2, War on Super Earth. A few things are very important. Read #Minecraft rules. It has been updated. Extra info. There is a 1-hour grace period on the server when it begins. This means no fighting. Kill on sight is allowed on this season of the SMP. The world border in all dimensions is 50k by 50k. Also, don't be weird and go on my streams to see my chords. That's weird. No sky bases. Max team size is 8. More listed in MC rules. Banned items, very important. Elytras, shulkers, totems, ender pearls, during combat of course. Putting items in backpacks, then sticking the backpacks in your ender chest. And last thing, the end portal works differently in this mod pack. There's about 11 different eyes of enders. You'll probably need 11 to be safe to fill in the portal. With this in mind, the end will be locked for 1 week after the server starts. When it's unlocked, no killing while everyone piles in. Once all teams enter, there will be a 15-minute period where all teams make a base and have a fight. So, I suppose that after seeing and reading and hearing all of that, you can probably guess what this season was based on. It was war. A battle between friends who had become enemies out of bloodlust. Everyone had brushes, the world was their canvas. And everyone wanted to paint the world red. Thankfully, this little emo phase of the AVL SMP didn't last long. If you're wondering why whenever I mention Season 2 Part 1, I never use any official stream, any clips from it, well, that's because there are none. It lasted for a single stream for 3 days before it was taken down. The stream itself has been purged from public memory because it was wiped off the face of the fucking earth. Now, the reason why I have to bring this up is because this was the turning point of a couple of things. Number one being the rise of the NJR once more, and number two, the brewing of a catastrophe. And before anything else is fully stated, I do want everyone to understand the mods that were voted in were not exactly of, well, what everyone wanted. Instead, all the mods were truly only suggested by Scuffy and Nick. Nick being the only person who wanted a war theme for the SMP. Of course, later on you would see why this is a generally bad idea. The only superpowers at the time, in Season 2 Part 1 of course, were the faction that Nick created that never really had a name, and the OCO, the faction created by none other than Suspect Omar. There was only 2 reasons why either of them made a faction in the first place. Nick made a faction because the NJR was, in his eyes, dead. Because I was no longer fully commanding it. The Discord itself was abandoned. And of course, Omar simply resurrected the OCO from Season 1. Most people joined Nick's side mainly because no one really liked Suspect Omar from Season 1. The actions he did, usually either annoying or generally just asshole behavior, such as killing Captain Sushi, killing a lot of other people, bullying people, and ultimately just going places where he shouldn't and stealing things. Ultimately, that's what people didn't like him for. That, and also inviting TS Mad, but still, I digress. After about, I'd say the second day, people had realized that one of the mods was absolutely and utterly broken. Hypothetically, with one of the mod's shotguns, you would be able to one-tap the Ender Dragon. Imagine that. The Ender fight not going off with a massive fight with everyone teaming up to kill this behemoth lizard, but instead with a silent bang because one person would be all it took to kill the dragon. But this was the exact problem. The fact that a shotgun, if fired correctly, could kill anyone no matter the range. A pistol could kill someone no matter the range. It didn't matter where they were, who they were, and what they were wearing. It was an instant kill. And people took advantage of that, and thus caused the first controversy of Season 2, Part 1. To put it as simple as possible, it's not that Jackson was on a separate team from Nick. No. It was quite the opposite. He was on Nick's team, and that's where the fight occurred. See, Nick had assigned Jackson, a kid from Greece, and I to mine to get resources, so we would be powerful, so we would have proper weaponry. Of course, while we were spending all of our time slaving away in mines, he was spending his time killing us whenever we were on the surface, and wasting materials while he was at it. Eventually, he had decided to break Sig Jackson's bed and then kill him, sending him back to World Spawn. And, as anyone would, Sig Jackson left in a fit of anger. Well, being a dipshit that he was, Nick decided to take all of Jackson's things, be it armor, backpacks, goods, etc. He took all of it. And once Jackson got back, that's when Grease, Jackson, and I revolted against Nick. Grease had pulled a .44 Magnum on Nick. Jackson had pulled a double-barreled shotgun at Nick. And I had a hunting rifle that I had aimed at Nick's head had he tried to pull anything suspicious. Of course, Nick tried to fight his way out of the situation. It ended with a bang. A kid from Greece was able to brutally execute Nick once and for all. A shot to the head, glorious remains spilt upon the yard. But that didn't matter, as Nick took him to complaining to AVL about everything that just transpired. Of course, everyone was trying to tell him, this is a war server, there's bound to be war, and you're bound to die. But apparently he didn't think that he would be the one dying. Instead, he thought he would be the badass one, killing everyone in sight. But no, that was not the reality. Either way, he had left the server in a fit of anger, and that caused a total rethinking of the AVL SMP from there. We didn't want anyone else to leave, not entirely at least, and we also ended up going from war to peace once more. Or at least that's what we had hoped. And so concludes the tale of Season 2, as AVL shut it down practically right after the Nick incident, because no one wanted to play. The fear and threat of losing all of your stuff because you were one-tapped by someone with a Luger from 5,000 blocks away was just too high. So, yeah, I'm sorry that this one is a bit short. To put it back in the analogy of this being a book series, most of the pages in this chapter were, well, in this one, were either ripped out or someone wrote over the words. Too many things were going on at once, etc. I just can't document all of the things at once. All I do know is that the important things were the fact that the OCO joined forces, AVL had joined Nick's side, and the fact that Nick was assassinated, or I guess really put down, I should really specify. But I digress. Let's continue into Season 2, Part 2. Now, so, let me just get up once more. Now, where is it on the bookshelf? Season 2, Part 2, Season 2, Part 2, Season 2, Part 2. Ah, here. So, me just find the correct page. Here. Sorry for keeping you waiting. Season 2 Part 2 had a very, very long start, and a very rocky one at that. Specifically because it took a long time for Season 2 Part 2 to have the mods agreed upon. When it came down to it, it took about 3-ish weeks for the mods to be agreed upon, because the team of mod people were now limited to only the trusted friend group of AVL, that being me, a kid from Greece, and Sick Jackson. Unlike Nick and Scuffy, we actually listened to the people of the Discord who are going to be playing. And ultimately, what we had to settle on came down to what AVL wanted to accept. And it came down to the mods that were, well, I guess I should say they included, but were not limited to amendments, Appleskin, Armorer's Workshop, Balm, Better Advancements, Botany Pots, Citadel, Clumps, Construction Wands, Corpse, Cupboard, Delightful, Elytra Slots, Enchantment Descriptions, Etched, etc., etc. Really just quality of life stuff. Ultimately, it was because AVL did not want anything to be severely modded, like Season 1 was, or Season 2 for that matter. He believed that because of how those two seasons ended up, that less would be more. Sadly, though, that would be proven incorrect later on. One of the main mods that AVL was strictly against was the one that made Season 1 the most fun and the most engaging. That would be mythical weapons. See, mythical weapons were, as I already described, weapons that had extra abilities, either activated or passive, that made it significantly stronger. And he didn't want any of that. He didn't want unfair advantages, as he would say. But a lot of the player base would not play had mythical weapons not been on. So he had to re-add them. Of course, this was done after a lot of deliberation, but ultimately he did decide to include mythical weapons. But even though he did, some people, such as myself, didn't want to join until later on, because, well, we wanted to make sure that the server was at least somewhat stable. And considering how rough all the other season starts were, if we didn't know that it was going to last for a while, we didn't want to play. Of course, even then, the server would have one large controversy. And that was AVL pushing back the date in which people would be able to access the end. He went from 1 week to 2. And that made a lot of people incredibly angry. Because even in the first couple of days, people had already gotten full netherite. Now that extra time was either spent just completely offline or just upgrading their gear even further. And, well, you can already tell how that would have went, considering that at the time, because Simply Swords is compatible with better combat, and the fact that katanas, which usually are nerfed by better combat because of the animation and the fact that it's only two-handed and cannot go into the offhand. In this season, it was far stronger, as it had the same attack as a normal diamond sword, but had twice the attack potential because it could hit twice as fast. Everyone had realized that. Everyone knew that. And that's why that 2 weeks was devastating. Because it just allowed that much more time for people who are already geared up to the maximum they could be to gear up even more. And, well, during the end fight, which was coordinated by AVL, there was one major thing going on that caused absolute cacophony. The fact that the NJR and TS-MAD, during that time period, were in a Cold War. Now, if you dropped out of high school or something like that, I will give you a brief definition on what a Cold War is. It is an information or an intelligence war, a war for technology, to prove that they are the most powerful. And in this case, TS-MAD and the NJR were competing on who could get the best gear. Of course, it was hard for the NJR to keep up, considering, well, TS-MAD's team had two of the most sweaty fucking people imaginable, even more sweaty than League of Legends players. I know, scary. The fact of the matter was that TS-MAD had teamed with Techno4, someone who had joined very late, and was also a controversial figure just like, well, TS-MAD. The only reason why he was so controversial? Because he constantly shit-talked everyone. Both of them did. And that resulted in, well, the sweatiest team combined. And the NJR was fighting against them in a race for better technology, for better gear, for better anything, really. And because of that Cold War, TS-MAD had believed that during the end fight, the NJR was going to kill him. We had no such intention. We instead were trying to tell him we would not attack him if he would not attack us. He used that opportunity of peace to cause chaos. During the end fight, he had proceeded to kill a kid from Greece, attempted to kill AVL, and attempted to kill Sick Jackson. The only reason why Sick Jackson and I had survived was because we had combat logged. Why would they do this? It's because they wanted the egg, and because they just wanted the sensation of killing. They hadn't gotten to do it all season. Poor them. Boo-hoo. They're PvPers to the end. And that's why they wanted to get blood on their hands one final time. And, well, after that end fight, the end of the server was upon us. And, well, what do I mean by that? AVL refused to add more content after the end. Utterly and absolutely. He believed that the only thing you needed was to build and explore, but others had made the argument that if you already know what is in a world, then why explore in the first place? That's why they tried to get him to add more biomes, to add more structures, but he had not listened, for he believed that he was truly in the right, that all you need is vanilla Minecraft and to build. What he didn't understand was that some people don't like that building aspect. They'd rather explore and fight. And that's why there's the PvP and builder side. The NJR was primarily of builders and miners, people who didn't really do combat. And that's how TS-MAD and Techno were able to seize the egg. It was just because they sweat their balls off all the time when they try and kill people in any form of Minecraft combat. But I digress. See, after elytras were obtained, that deleted any and all purpose of boats and anything like that. Even with the introduction of waystones, that still gave an incentive to explore. It just meant that you would be able to go back to your last point of exploration faster than if you had to simply go by boat. And with the not small boats, but extra boats mod that he had added, there were faster boats that were able to go chunks a second, but they still paled in comparison to elytra. The one thing that killed custom boats that killed the horses was the elytra. And, well, again, because of the vastly superior mobility of elytra, because they can go above land, above mountain, without the need of water, that simply meant that boats were now irrelevant. Just because, well, why use a boat if you can go over the mountain, over the mesa, with an elytra? And of course, why use an elytra if there's no reason to explore, if there's no extra biomes to be seen? But either way, people lost interest until there was only one person left. And then that person left. And soon after, AVL had decided to shut down the SMP for good, with the final messages being the lyrics to My Way. Of course, with the memorial that I have posted on my channel before this and after the NGR video, it should be clear that a lot of people had cared for it. And AVL had tried to continue the memory of the AVL SMP within the Back to Madness SMP, but it never really was the same. He became a recluse, just like I had when the JFC was originally raided for the drugs. I don't blame him. He wanted to be alone. He wanted to build in peace, but the people who cared about him tried to help when they could, but he did not want that help, no matter who it was from. And now we've reached the end of the story. I know, I'm also sad about this, but it is what it is. It was a good story while it lasted. Now please, though I do like you being in my house, get the fuck out, please. I'm needing my own time to ruminate in my thoughts. Thank you for coming by, though. I appreciated it. Goodbye now.